What is going on, everyone? Trust the Buzz here. If you're new to the channel, I make Charlotte Hornets content, so if that interests you, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. If you cannot tell by the thumbnail title of this video, in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Terry Rozier trade. Now, this is just a Hornets fan reaction. This is just a quick reaction. To me, there's so much more to this trade than just Terry Rozier got traded. Terry Rozier got traded for Kyle Lowry and a 2027 lottery protected first round pick, which automatically becomes unprotected in 2028. It's much more than that. But this is just going to be a quick reaction video because obviously it's during the day. In the podcast, which will hopefully come out later this week in the podcast episode, we'll talk more in depth about that. And also, I kind of want to wait because I don't think I'm going to keep Kyle Lowry. So anyway, if you've been living under a rock, you didn't see where Terry Rozier got traded to the Miami Heat. First, I think it was mentioned by Shams, and then Woj kind of said it. It was weird because at first Shams said that it was a first and additional draft compensation, and then Woj just said it's just a 2027 first. Which once again, that 2027 first is lottery protected, and then in 2028 it automatically becomes unprotected. So at first, it just seems as it's not a good deal. I will say that it's not the deal I had imagined. However, I didn't have high expectations anyway, so it's closer to my expectations. So I'm not like too. That's why I'm not too upset about it. But I did think it was going to be better. I'll be lying if I didn't say that. I thought we'll at least get Nikola Jovic. I might instead of Jokic. I always want to say Jokic every time, but Nikola Jovic within the deal as well. But we did not. And I get it. I think that what other teams are seeing is that Terry Rozier, one, he's putting up numbers in Charlotte. The team is not good. With him putting up those kind of numbers, where has the team gone? And at most, they've been a 10 seed in the play-in. So, and without the play-in, they wouldn't have made the playoffs. So I feel as though teams see that and be like, okay, will he have that kind of opportunity? Will he have that kind of impact on our team? Maybe not. I mean, because look, when he plays well, it's not like they get anywhere. So I feel like teams saw that. Then you also got to think about the part of his deal where I believe it's this year, of course, then next year, and then the partial guaranteed year. So there's a lot of things to think about when you're trading for a player like that, especially if you're the Miami Heat, who you're kind of capped out, to be honest. You're pretty capped out. Jimmy Butler, Bam, Tyler Hero, Hami, which you're not going to have to pay him anytime soon, but I'm just saying. Hami, Jaquez, and then you got to fill out the rest of the bench. I think Terry Rozier is a good fit for them. I think they got a good player in Terry Rozier. I think they got a guy that can move well without the ball, which he did. When he did that in Charlotte, he was really good at it. He was one of the best in the league at it if you look at the numbers. And then you include it, they have guys who can play make like Jimmy Butler, like Bam Adebayo, like Tyler Hero, but then you throw in Terry Rozier, who once again moves very well without the ball, but can also control the pace of the offense, can also play make on his own in his own right. So you have four guys who can kind of play that role for you. And with the Miami Heat, I don't think they're really worried about the defense as much as Charlotte was. With Terry Rozier's defense, they play defense as a team. They go into the zone. There's a lot of things they do that Terry's not gonna have to do like he did in Charlotte. So I think it works out for them. But overall, it's an interesting trade because if anything, this provides cap space, which I know it's not the most exciting thing in the world. This upcoming free agency class is not good at all. But I was very under the impression that the Charlotte Hornets needed to get bad before they became good again. I think a lot of people expected, especially considering we just resigned LaMelo Ball and now we have Brandon Miller. The idea of Mark Williams, when he's healthy, the idea of possibly re-signing Miles Bridges. I felt as though a lot of fans thought, oh, we're going to rebuild on the fly and we're going to go out there and we're going to be good again. And then they see this trade and like, okay, well, how are we going to do that with this kind of trade? And the honest answer is you're not. I don't think that was the Hornets' plan, and I don't blame them. I think that is the right thing to do. It sucks for LaMelo, 100%. So if LaMelo has an all-star caliber season next year, but wants to leave because they're not doing anything around him, I'm not gonna blame him. I'm not gonna say it's LaMelo's fault. I'm not gonna really blame anybody. But I think this is what the Hornets have to do. They have proven that they are unable to put a rebuild together on the fly. Now, you may get a new front office, and it'll be a different story. This hat is whatever, but my hair is messed up, so I'd rather wear the hat all funny than to put it on to not wear it. But anyway, I think you would rather go into a offseason with a new GM, with a new coach, with cap space, than to kind of try to rebuild on the fly with a new coach, with a new GM, because it just hasn't worked. It just has not worked at all. And yes, you have pieces. Nick Smith Jr. looks good. Brandon Miller, of course, looks good. Um, that's really it. I mean, you can throw in Mark Williams, but that's kind of it. Everybody else is just kind of out there, maybe trying to play for a spot. I think you rather just have the cap space and let them work. The free agency class is not good. This draft class is not good. But it's just something that's going to take time. I'm not saying trust the team, because I know this is trust the buzz, but I'm not saying trust the team because I don't. I've said that plenty of times. But I need to see who they put in place. I need to see the kind of moves they make. I need to see the ideologies of the coach they have, the ideologies of the GM they're going to get, all these things before I can really make a true decision on how I feel about what the Hornets are doing. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating. I'm not going to lie to you, but I think it's the right thing to do. Once again, we have not proven that we can rebuild on the fly. We just have not been able to do so. Brandon Miller's still young, so you don't really want to kind of put a player like that in that predicament of, okay, we done got Joel. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but we done got Joel Embiid, Brandon Miller step up because you're going to be the third. You know what I mean? Just things like that. I feel as though it's not going to be easy for the young players to kind of get accustomed to. I think they're trying to build a new era where LaMelo Ball is the leader, because he was the leader by talent. And of course, the guys really liked him, so he was kind of a leader in that, right? But on this team, you get rid of Terry Rozier, you get rid of Gordon Hayward, you even get rid of PJ. LaMelo Ball is the guy. He is the leader. There's no if, ands, or buts about it. You may not even have anyone older than him by the time we're done trading people, if that's the case. So I think that was the right thing to do. I think that was because LaMelo, of course, like I said, once again, by talent, he was for sure the head of the franchise. There was no one I ever thought, or anybody should ever thought, that is above LaMelo in the hierarchy. But this way, getting rid of Terry, getting rid of Gordon, getting rid of PJ, maybe even getting rid of Miles, I don't know what's going to happen there. It just feels like he's on his way out. I don't know how to explain it. I literally have nothing to prove that. It's just that's how it feels. But anyway, getting rid of those guys, LaMelo, we trust you. We trust you to be the guy. Can you do that for us? We will put players around you that we think fit you. We will maybe not involve you in decisions, but at least get your sign off. Like, okay, I like him. I like how he plays. Things like that. We trust you. You are the franchise. We're giving everything to you. I think that's the correct approach. It's ugly right now. It may even be ugly next year, but at least there's a sense of direction. I'm not saying that the Hornets have to go and make do with the free agency class. Maybe sign a couple young players who maybe didn't get the chance they deserved on their other teams, or maybe sign a couple guys who just were coming off a good season, but unfortunately, wasn't able to make the cut because their team traded for Pascal Siakam or OG in it. You know what I mean? Maybe take advantage of guys like that, build them around LaMelo, see how that goes. Maybe not on long-term deals. That gives Brandon Miller time to develop. That gives Mark Williams time to develop. That gives whoever you pick in this draft class time to develop. Just things like that, I feel like is the right direction. I wholeheartedly believe I would much rather build on the fly. Much rather. It makes more sense. You just signed LaMelo Ball to this very expensive deal. He's ready to win now. The way he's progressing, the way he's playing, he's ready to win now. Overall, though, for the franchise, it's just not the best thing to do because they've proven they cannot do it. So I would rather take a year off because I really don't think it's going to take that long. Because you have the guys you do have are so talented. Mark Williams, I think, is a very valuable center. You don't need your center to do much else. I just think they need to make sure they don't get the redundancy in which they have with Nick Richards. Him and Nick Richards essentially do the same thing. So I think you need to get another center that's a little different. But Mark Williams, I think he's an NBA caliber center. I really do. Brandon Miller, of course. I think he's going to be a stud. And then you add LaMelo Ball. You have the pieces to just rebuild, not take long. Those guys just need to develop as you're hoping. So part of that would be Mark Williams being healthy, LaMelo Ball being healthy. Heck, even Brandon Miller being healthy. It does rely on that. But you have the pieces to have these guys grow. I don't think it's going to take long at all if you put good pieces around him. And of course, I think you're going to need a third guy because I don't think Mark Williams could be your third most important guy to the team, but he can't be your third scorer, your third leader. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense. And this is saying if they don't bring back Miles Bridges, which I've seen a lot of reports that they're not thinking about bringing him back. I don't know. I'm just speaking, in hypotheticals here, but This is just the right move. I don't think it's going to take long. And if you surround LaMelo Ball and the rest of those guys with good pieces, 2-3 years, we're looking like an OKC. We're looking now. OKC's overachieving right now. I would even say that teams like the Orlando Magic are overachieving right now. But in a year or two, we would look like those guys. And maybe even better because I think Brandon Miller is progressing way faster than people thought. LaMelo Ball is progressing in his areas of weakness way quicker and way efficiently, way more efficiently than people thought he would. Because I mean, you saw it. LaMelo Ball is a great player. You knew he was going to improve those areas. At least for me, I just didn't think he would improve that fast and that efficient. Like it already looks as though he's been driving to the basket and converting for years now, which this year is the first year he really started to do it. Last year we saw signs of it, but this year it's on a different level. So I think that we're in a good position. I really do. It really comes down to who we bring in as a GM, who we bring in as a coach. Will we allow our GM to make the moves they need to make, and will we allow our coach to make the moves he needs to make? Because I think this team was too controlled, and that's how we ended up with the roster we ended up with. Once again, all I'm saying, LaMelo Ball, I wholeheartedly believe if you're like, this is stupid, LaMelo Ball should not be going through a rebuild. I agree. But the team needed one. The team absolutely needed one. And the reason I say this is good is because LaMelo Ball is at the forefront of it. We've already paid him. On the court, he's already proved he's the franchise. But I think going in this direction where there's no one else, LaMelo, there's no one else in your way, there's no one else on your level, there's no one else that can even pretend to have assertiveness over you or be a higher in the hierarchy over you. Make the most money, you're our best player, you're going to be the leader, you're going to have the most experience on the team unless they bring in a veteran piece. Like all signs point to LaMelo. I think that's a good way to start, especially considering where we were. I think that's a good sign to just have LaMelo be number one in everything, like pay, skill, age, like all of that. Obviously, age might be a little difficult because he's still so young, but you get the point. I think that's the right thing to do. So we'll see how it pans out. Please, please, please allow the rest of the trades to happen. Allow the Kyle Lowry trade to potentially happen. Allow the PJ, Nick Richards, Miles Bridges, I'm thinking of who else. Allow those trades to happen before we can really grasp and understand what's going on. Once again, I completely understand that the cap space is not beautiful because, yes, we have cap space. Yes, I believe we're going to have the third most cap space if we do not sign Miles Bridges. We will have the third most cap space in the league this upcoming season. And if we trade PJ, depending on what we trade him for, we will probably jump up to first, right above the Pistons. So cap space is not the prettiest thing in the world. It's not like we have that many assets, but just let things play out. Let things play out. Let's see who our GM is. Let's see who our new coach is, because all of that is going to play a part. All of that is going to play a part. One thing about cap space and one thing about the NBA, our players are going to want their money, especially younger players, especially younger good players at that. They're going to want their money this early in their career. Cap space, people will go to players to teams with cap space. That's just as simple as that. If you have it and no one else has it, they will go. I don't know. I mean, because you got to worry about teams like Detroit, I think, has a lot of cap space. Orlando has a lot of cap space, but I think they have a lot of guys they need to keep in mind that we're going to look at, like, hey, we need to sign these guys. Franz Wagner, Wendell Carter Jr., Cole Anthony, Jonathan Isaac's probably gone. I can't think of anybody else. Am I missing someone? Oh, Jalen Suggs. There's just a lot of guys on their roster that they're probably going to. Oh, Palo. Yeah, I know it's not time, but I'm saying that that's something they're going to have to think about for the future. And they may be like, hey, look, we're so good now. We'll worry about that later, and they may make moves. I don't know, but my point is, we have a chance to beat a team with cap space. Yes, players may not want to come to Charlotte. This free agency class is not good, but things can happen. We have LaMelo. We see the respect LaMelo gets from his peers. We see the respect that Brandon Miller gets from his peers. We see the respect even Mark Williams was getting some respect early in the season when he was healthy from his peers. People might want to play with that. I'm not saying it's a guaranteed thing, but I'm saying that it's just possible. I'm not saying let's do cartwheels over cap space, but I am saying that it's a sense of direction, and while it might not be the most prettiest direction, I think it's the correct one. So once again, we'll talk about more about it in the podcast, but that's just my initial thoughts on the Terry Rozier trade. I think the Miami Heat got a good one. I may bring someone. I have a friend of mine that he's like really big into Miami Heat. Kind of does the same thing I do for the Hornets, but for the Heat. But he does it through Twitter. I might bring him on and just have him talk about just Terry Rozier because I mean, some of y'all may not care about the future of Terry Rozier and what he does because now he's not on the team. I don't blame you, but I do. I want him to do well. It's not like, he's going to get in our way. So, yeah, I may bring him on just to have him talk about the Heat. But overall, I think it's not a good trade. I'll be lying if I said it was a good trade, but we're headed in a good direction. The way we're getting there might be kind of ugly, but I think we're headed in the right direction. This team needed a serious overhaul from front office all the way down to the roster. So, I just say bear with it. I'm not saying turn a blind eye. Don't be afraid to call out a bad trade like this one. Don't be afraid to call out a bad signing in the offseason. Don't be afraid to do that. But I am saying let's just be lenient. Let's try to understand what's going on. Not lenient on the current regime, but lenient on the next regime. Let them work. I think the whole thing of this is getting a clean slate so that I think this is more what GM and coach can we attract over what players we can attract. That's kind of how I'm taking it. I could be wrong. I could be trying to be overly optimistic, but on this channel, I'm only going to tell you what I believe. I'm not going to try to lean one way or another to make people happy. I believe this whole thing is to just attract front office people, and then we can worry about the players later. We have good players, so it's not like the end of the world. But let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.